contrarian. I'm back, nation. What's up? Welcome to the Wise Take DFS Podcast. I am your host, Patio Joe, and I'm joined here tonight for the very first time by my man TC, the newest hire here of the nation. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that I know he's been on a few shows, but people haven't asked the questions, but I asked the questions right off. I found out, I came down to it. I got to the bottom of it. He is not the ex-manager's Mets manager, Terry Collins. It's not him. Okay, guys? So if you were wondering if the new hire, because Terry Collins got fired, he was obviously looking for a new job. Like the time kind of fit. So people were wondering, and I can confirm to you, it's not the other Terry Collins. This is a totally different Terry Collins. This is TC. This is our Terry Collins. He lives in Southern Illinois. He is into agriculture, which is basically farming, everything. He told us before, and then the camera froze, and we had to do take two. All right. So we're going to do really quick. TC, tell us about agriculture. Tell us about voices talking to you in the cornfields, all that stuff.
All right. Agriculture deals with anything livestock wise, raising them, feeding them all the way out until butcher or whatnot, showing them. Soil conservation, growing of different kinds of crops, anything along those lines. Going with the voices in the cornfield, depends on how many children are in there. And I know the question's coming. I just have some eerie feeling about it, but I've also never built a baseball field there to repair, past issues with my father. Okay, but I've had a couple dreams where I've thought about doing that before.
That would have been crazy. It'd take a while too. I think I would. They made it seem like 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden it's snowing, and then they're telling go the distance. It's like it's crazy. That was just way too much. I couldn't deal with it.
I could probably make a field pretty quick. You give me a mower and some
look at
chalk.
Him. Look at him. He's already. I got the wheels doing. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow night. Okay, I got the plans, Joe. Here we go. All right. By Sunday, they're gonna be playing baseball on it. Speaking of baseball, everybody, as you can see here on my sweatshirt, World Series. I was at the Game 2 World Series yesterday, and it was an amazing game. Back and forth. People on Twitter were going crazy, saying it was one of the greatest games ever, best World Series games ever. We were saying before when we take one that if you were a new baseball fan or you wanted to make somebody a baseball fan, you show them that game. And it was great. And as for a Dodger fan, I think that I maybe lost a little bit of the luster because they lost, and it was a little bit sour. And when you're in the game, you're not thinking, well, I want them to win the greatest game ever. No, I just want them to win. I want that ring. I want to be able to, have all the merchandise to where I can, send it to all of my friends that are Giants fans, send them a hat and say, here you go, buddy. Send them a T-shirt, like something like that. My passive aggressive ways of talking smack. So, I want that. I don't really care about them being involved in the greatest game ever if they don't win it. So, but yes, if I was at home and I wasn't a Dodger fan or an Astro fan and I just watched that game, I would have thought, wow, just an amazing game. Both clutch hittings on both sides. As a Dodger fan, I'm scared that the Astros offense has now awoken because Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Correa, they scared me way more than the Yankees did as a Dodger fan. I think the Dodgers would have steamrolled over the Yankees. But the Astros with their offense, we'll see. Yu Darvish has some great numbers in Houston in his career because they've seen him a lot because he played with the Rangers. So we'll see. Tomorrow night should be interesting. Should be a lot of fun. I wouldn't be, the Dodgers went into Chicago up 2-0. Chicago's the defending world champions, and they took them out real early, and we'll see. If they can steal Game 3, I'd be really, really excited. What was your thoughts about last night's game?
My thoughts was that, obviously I'm a baseball fan, but, kind of like you alluded to it, I can halfway see it from like an outside perspective because I'm not really a fan of either one of the teams. But yeah, that game was one of those that like it commanded like your attention. It was just so interesting, so back and forth. It just commanded you to keep watching it. Like I was flipping back and forth, and I really didn't have any intentions on watching it for a prolonged period of time since I had Wall going. But like just the way that it was unfolding, like you had to keep watching it. Like it just had you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Like it was, I'm a Cardinal fan, so like I said in take one, I mean Cardinals have had some pretty epic games in World Series history, but at the same time, like I can't take anything away from that game. Like that was just an epic game.
Yeah, you just go back and forth, and hats off to the Astros, and for as a Dodger fan, the first time in this playoffs, it's like you have that tinge of like doubt maybe, so and that's what makes it interesting, and hopefully they'll respond. But on to the inferior sport. We have a 7-game slate here, but that doesn't mean we can't make money. And we thank actually David Stern, the commissioner. Actually, I know David Stern's not the commissioner. I'm sorry, guys. It was a joke.
Adam
Silver, the commissioner, for making a 7-game slate, for realizing that baseball is going to be king tomorrow night, and knowing that, let's watch the Dodgers and Astros battle it out. So they only have a 7-game slate, which is a lot lower than normal on this. So basically, TC, I'm just going to be basically just throwing it over to you, and you're going to have the floor. You're going to be able to talk about whoever you want. And if you contradict yourself, I might catch yourself, but everything else will be like, yeah, that sounds good for sure. Yep, that's good. That being said, everybody, I just want to let you know, I also can confirm one other thing. On the pre-show, I did see a CK with his hair down. That's right. It was like flowing locks. It's as beautiful as you would imagine it. I mean, it really is. And everybody has got to hopefully, I'm hoping like Halloween show. If it's game 6 that night, so barring the Dodgers winning the World Series that night, I will be on the show. And we'll be dressed up, hopefully in some sort of gear. So maybe we could have, CK Cross as a guest, or, our Pirate CK, with the hair down or something. And it would be great. And I just think the nation wants it. And once you see the beautiful flowing locks, the nation just sees the locks. It's going to be over, and it's just going to come flowing. And speaking of the nation, believe it or not, today, TC, we had one of CK's relatives used our cheat sheets and won $200 on a Monday-Thursday football slate. And that's that's what you do. You bring the cheat sheets. That's how easy it is. It was a CK sister-in-law, and
what do you think the chance is that like she touched that beautiful mane and just got like lucky vibes off of it?
I like maybe like just the knowledge, like literally like you have to like take the brush and like do like 10 strokes of the hair. You know what I mean? Just like. I mean, it's just so nice. I know CK is probably wishing at this point that take 1 would have went through, but now that take 2 has went off into this distance. Let's start with point guard, the guards at point. So tomorrow night we have pretty much we have one guy over 10K. We have Russell Westbrook. So the question is, are you going to pay up that much? And then if not, we got guys from, we got about 5 guys from 8 to 9,500. Tell me about the cash guys and the GPP guys, and then specifically, are you paying up for Westbrook tomorrow night?
I do think there is some merit to paying up for Westbrook in cash. In my GPP lineups, I probably won't have a whole lot of them. He will be in some of my lineups, but I'm just worried without the line being out right now. That's kind of what I'm waiting on, or at least not from where I get my lines at. That I don't know what to think if it's going to be a pace down game or if they expect it to be up and down. They're going against Minnesota, so I would think that OKC should be able to control it and kind of make it a faster pace. But I think not knowing where that line's at and where I think it's going to be, that I don't want to say that lock him in on GPPs or anything. But cash games, I think his popularity alone is going to give you the opportunity to put him in. Because I do think people, if they go to the upper tier, I do think they're going to stay away from John Wall just because of how hyped up and how many people he let down against the Lakers in an absolute smash spot. So I do think that cash game Westbrook is completely viable. GPPs, I have no issue with playing him, but right now I don't want to hype him up too much, not knowing where the game's going to be and not really having a good handle on it yet. Steph Curry, I do like that game a lot. It's the highest game on the slate right now. The only thing I'm worried about is how big the spread's going to be, just because right now Vegas has the spread a lot higher than what I thought it was going to be. It's 10.5 right now. I don't think it's going to ever get to the point, I would hope not, that they pull Curry. I don't foresee that happening, but until I see the line movement, hopefully get down to like maybe 7 or 8 to kind of make me more confident that he'll be in. I don't want to say that I'm going to have a lot of them. I'll probably have a lot of GPP wise. I'll probably be into Dinwiddie. I'll go down to cheap. I don't have any of the prices in front of me. I just kind of made a list of players that I like.
Okay. All right.
Dinwiddie, but I can kind of gauge on who they are, where they're at price wise. So and I had
Dinwiddie's 5K on FanDuel. Okay. Real quick, let me ask you this: if you're doing a lineup, I mean, I'm a newer player, so obviously, would you construct a GPP lineup with Wall and Curry?
I do. That's a tough one. I probably would not right now, just because I think there's so many other ways you can go in other positions that I think going up that high in the price range at point guard would really limit you throughout your overall build. Yeah, I do think that would be a good contrarian play, or at least Curry will probably be popular, but I think Wall from Westbrook would be a really good pivot. I don't think you're going to get too many people having like lineups as you. So I personally would not, but it does have merit to doing that.
All right, good. Now, keep going. You talked about Dinwiddie. Anybody else? Talk about some more point guards.
All right. I do like Lowry tomorrow at a 225 game score right now. Toronto's favorites by 6.5. I do think that since it's in LA, that it'll be closer than that. Ball's defense, I foresee Ball playing most of the defense on him. Doesn't scare me at all. He's a decent defender, but Lowry's been in a funk. I think ownership will be down, and I think this is a good spot with this high scoring of a game for him to break out and put up some good numbers. And like I said, since he's been playing pretty bad, I guess I can't really cuss on the show, but pretty bad. I don't see his ownership being that high. And I also think Kemba's in play. I think Kemba at a close game at home. I don't see really any reason why I wouldn't like Kemba. It's just one of those in the middle prices to where I can make just as good of an argument to go down to like a Dinwiddie and save some money, or also go up to Steph Curry. It's just one of those in between prices. But if you think Curry is going to be heavily owned, which by tomorrow I should have a pretty good idea on ownership, I think it might be a good pivot. But those are the point guards that I'm going to be looking at mainly tomorrow.
Let me ask you something real quick. Now, but if you weren't going on this show, give the viewers out there just a little bit about your process that goes into, do you start tonight about your process for tomorrow, or you wait till the morning?
I start mine like right when the games are about at halftime, like tonight. I think game started at 7 my time. So about 7:45, 8 o'clock, I'll go over the players. I'll look at the opening spreads and totals, and I won't really dive too much into matchup or any kind of minute projections yet, just because a lot of things can happen with injuries or sicknesses or whatnot. So I won't get into that until like tomorrow. But I'll always look at openings. I'll look at the entire schedule, where the games are at, kind of an overview of where the players are priced, and just how much I kind of like the spot with the game, like the total wise. Because like I've talked to CK before, like I'm big on going over Vegas totals. So I like the night before to have an idea if it's going to be high scoring or not, and if I would like to target that specific game. Because like tomorrow, I dive really deep into ownership, more matchup, more how much usage and minutes they're going to get. So I don't really want to have to worry about thinking about too much of how the game is going to go itself. I like to have a decent handle on where I think the game's going to be, high or low scoring, and the pace of it the night before.
Yeah, because I'm big on process, especially when it comes to teaching newer players out there. I think the biggest thing I always say is, these touts on these other sites, they always say, go and do your research. Well, they don't really even that's like so vague. It's not like I want to process, you know what I mean? Like literally. And it's not even so much telling me like what's the best place, just saying like, I go here, I write this down. I use a pad of paper. I don't use a pad of paper. Like literally like break it down. A1A, B,
But like, for instance, I can go a little bit further in, but I can do it pretty quick. Like, for me, every player is differently. But like, if you're a new person listening to this game and you want to kind of learn how to get a handle on the night before to kind of give yourself an advantage that day so you're not rushing around, go to like Vegas Insiders. You can look at up to like, I think it's 5 or 6 different betting houses. They'll have their lines out for that. And then they'll have a consensus. They'll have an average, where the lines are at average. And I will use those lines the night before I go, and I either write them down or I type them up. Like, those are what I go off of that night. And then they'll also have the spread, so I'll know if it's projecting to be a blowout or not. And then obviously those will adjust with injuries and whatnot. But then I'll go through and I'll list the players, and sometimes I'll list the prices, sometimes I won't. And then I'll go through, like after we done with the show, I'll go through and I'll kind of mark the guys that I really want to target, and then I'll dive deeper into them tomorrow. And then I'll also try to pick out what positions I want to pay up at. Like, that's not necessarily picking your players the night before, but like a game like tonight, or like a slate like tomorrow, go through and figure out, like, I think I might want to pay up at small forward tomorrow. Mark that. So then you can look at those players, mark out the guys that you want. So then the next day you don't have to worry about getting all of your information in a matter of a few hours.
Yeah. All right. That's good. I'm going to ask you some other questions as it pertains to process and stuff as we go along. Let's move on to the shooting guard position, where once again we have, pay up for James Harden, and then it's like a huge drop off of over $3,000 to the next guy, and then it's even like still drop off. Like, there's no really bunches until you get below 8K. So talk about shooting guards. Talk about the guys you like up top. Talk about, maybe some guys in the middle that you like, and then maybe some value that you like.
Okay. Harden, he's kind of like Westbrook. Tournament-wise, I don't think I'll have a lot of them, but he does have merit to playing him in cash games because of that popularity. The game's not overly high scoring. I mean, it's with 2 games not being listed, it's the second to lowest game out of the games listed. I do think he's in a decent spot here, but I just don't like the way that I think I'll have to make my lineup. If I play him, I think it'll make it tough if I want to pay up for like a Durant or like a point guard like Westbrook. Like, I think it'll just make it too difficult there. And that tomorrow, I think I'm going to try to go with a more even approach around there, maybe pay down at a few spots, but then try to keep it pretty even. Beal, I like Beal. He's been playing really well to begin the season. If you watch the LA game, He wasn't just camping out in the 3-point line like early in his career he did. He was actually making plays. He had the ball in his hands more and was handling it more. I do like the spot for him. Klay Thompson with the highest scoring game of the night. I love that spot for him. And with him coming out, I don't know how much some players or even you in any sport listen to like the narratives, but with him coming out and saying that he is going to give X amount of dollars per every point that he scores, I think until the end of next month, I think that he's going to be looking to score. And in a game that is this high, looks like going to be that high paced and that high scoring, I think that just sets up well for him. Eric Gordon under him, I like. I would honestly probably play Harden or Gordon before I'd play Harden, just for the price and the way that I'm going to construct my lineup. Wiggins has been playing well, but once again, until I see the line, I kind of want to dive into who I think is going to guard him. If it's going to be Melo, then yeah, I'm going to play him just because I don't think Melo can guard him. But I have a feeling it's going to be Paul George. And if it's Paul George, I probably don't like the spot. I just think George can slow him down a little bit. So if I go away from those core like 3 guys I mentioned, it's probably going to be going down to Danny Green. I really wasn't big on him when Cash brought him up a couple days ago, but not even just because of his last game, but I went back and looked at some of his stats, and he's really been performing well. He's one of those guys that just always slips under my radar. I mean, he doesn't do a whole lot of talking in the media. He just goes under a lot of people's radars, but he's been playing well this season. And I do think against Orlando, it's one of the lower scoring games, but he always brings decent defense. He can always, like on a site like FanDuel, we're going to get extra points for steals and whatnot. Like he gives you value there. And his 3-ball, and he's been playing well from mid-range so far. So I think he's going to be on my radar. And if you're looking for a real flyer that I think is going to have extremely low ownership, but I really have a feeling about tomorrow that's going to possibly win somebody a lot of money, Tim Hardaway Jr. He has let a lot of people, including myself, down this year, including me. And I think in New York against Brooklyn, who I'm not really afraid of Brooklyn's defense, a guy that can shoot like him, that can heat up. Looks like it's going to be a close game. He seems to be their number 2 guy right now. So I think he is going to be heavily involved. And at right now, a 220 score, like I don't see, KP putting up a whole lot of, well, I see him putting up points, but I don't see him being able to carry I think it's 107 points that their implied total is going to be. I think it's going to have to come from somewhere else also. And I think Hardaway is the guy that's going to have a breakout game tomorrow. So he's my cheap shooting guard that I would probably recommend going for in GPPs. Obviously, I'm going to be looking at tomorrow more matchups, but just off the eye test right now, Hardaway, I think, could really win somebody some money tomorrow.
All right. That's good. I like that. So, like, going back to your process now, it's Wednesday and you're doing, like, how do you work in football?
It's those are busy days. Normally, I will start more off with basketball just because obviously it's day to day, so I got to get those in first. But then before, like, I'll usually wait till closer to the end of games to start going over NBA, and I'll start looking at matchups for NFL. I won't really dive too deep into NFL on a Wednesday. I'll go into matchups, and I'll go into like pricing for quarterbacks, receivers, and I'll kind of just decide what preliminary I want to do, if I want to spend up at QB or if I want to spend down. And then, I'll kind of, as the week goes on, Thursday and Friday, I'll look more into the matchups themselves, who I think is going to cover who, where everybody's defense is ranked. Usually you can tell that just by looking at the team. It's this far into the season. We have a pretty good handle on who's good against a run, who's good against the pass. But I'll dive further into it. And then by the time like Friday, Saturday comes, I really try to start making mock-up lineups. I'll make a lot of them. I'll see how I like my construction. But the way I manage it with NBA is NBA will always, until Friday, it will always come first. I'll always do my research for NBA and then do a little bit of NFL after. And I won't try to burn myself out on NFL. I'll just try to get a few key stats that I think I'm going to use down, and then I'll just kind of let it go because I don't want to do my NBA and then spend all night doing NFL, and then Thursday do NBA, then spend all night going over NFL. Because then by the time Sunday comes around, you probably are so burned out on research, like you don't even care about your lineups anymore. So I think a lot of people try to jam too much in at one time, or they won't do any until like Sunday morning, Saturday late at night. You got to find an even middle there. If you're going to play NBA, it's a grind. You're going to be looking at it every single night if you play. But you have to be able to find that even area to where you can do research, you're well prepared, but at the same time, you're not killing yourself trying to get all the information one night.
Do you take days off from NBA?
No.
What about MLB?
MLB, yes, a little bit, just because I normally maybe once or twice a week I will, but I don't play quite as much in MLB. I play, like I said, most days, but I don't put quite as many lineups in. So therefore I can kind of focus on picking out games and stacks and whatnot. Yes, exactly.
That's good, guys. That's just basically saying his style of play. You know, I mean, as you guys have known, you followed me over the summer. I'm a big believer in taking a few days off because baseball is a grind, and basketball is a little bit different because there's not 15 games every day.
Yeah.
Like there is in baseball. I know I took weekends off a lot, at least one weekend day, just because you just needed to get the brain a little bit of a rest and stuff like that. And with basketball, I think it's tough. Like on Sundays, do you find playing on Sundays the hardest day because you got football at the same time?
Honestly, no. I feel like for me, like going over the teams, it's a little bit because obviously, like Saturday night, I'm really focusing on my NFL teams. But there's so much less people playing NBA on Sundays just because they're all focused on NFL that I think you can get away a little bit with not quite doing as much research. Like if you're just going to attack one game, you can find out maybe a game or two that you really want to attack. You can put stacks in there. And some nights you're really going to get a good edge on people because they'll just, if they're going to play, a lot of people are just going to throw lineups together. And then most people are just going to completely get away from it. And I think you can find a lot of guaranteed contests that have a lot of openings there that aren't going to max out. That happens a lot. It happened to me last week. And then like some people watching this, if they've watched prior shows, they know I'm really big into Vegas too, like with lines. And you can usually find some softer lines there. I'm usually not as much movement. I'm not going to say that it's easy to win because you still have to make some pretty tough decisions and kind of manage your money right. But you can sometimes get a little bit of edge there too because a lot of places in Vegas, their money day is Sunday. And they're going to be focused on all hands on deck on making sure that they get the lines for the NFL games right. And they try to maximize their profits. So a lot of times you might be able to find a few games, not all of them, but a few games that go kind of to the wayside and that you can get some soft lines in there. And that's a nice way to kind of bolster your bankroll a little bit there.
Good. Let's move on to small forwards now. Talk to me about the small forward position. What do we have up at the top? What do you think? Where are you going up at the top if you are in cash? What's your GPP plays? What's your crazy play if you have any? What you got?
Okay, up at the top, that's probably where I'll stay for most of my lineups. Durant, he's going to be heavily involved in my cash and GPP lineups. He's a high total game. I don't see anybody from Washington that I'm worried about slowing him down. I think he can take advantage on the boards. And obviously, if it's going to be a fast-paced game in transition, the dude's almost unstoppable. He can stop at the three-point line. He can go in. If it's in transition and he has the ball, probably 75% of the time, he's either going to get the assist or he's going to score. So Durant is extremely in play for both GPP and cash lineups. Paul George, I do have a little bit of interest in, just because it's Paul George. But I've been trying to stay away from the OKC lineup for the beginning of the season. I played Melo when he was going against the Knicks. I did play George when he was going against Indiana. But at the same time, it's so hard telling who's going to get the shots, who's going to get the usage. I don't remember who it was, but somebody in the nation was talking about the usage from Westbrook. It was down up until last game and then bumped way up, and he scored 60 FanDuel points. So not knowing on a consistent night-to-night basis where I'm going to get my usage at and who's going to get it just kind of scares me. I think in the middle of the season, we'll really be able to take advantage of this. But between Melo and George, I really don't think I'm going to be getting too much exposure at this point in the season. Fournier has been playing well, but with him being primarily offensive dependent, and his rebound numbers have been decent so far this year, but I really don't expect that to say the course. He's more of like a 3 to 4 rebound guy a night for me if he falls into him. But Damari Carroll, the dude seems to be every single day that he's on the slate that he's consistently hit 30 fantasy points and he's consistently went under-owned. Until they bump his price way up, I'm going to keep putting him in my lineups, especially in cash. As long as he's going to hit that probably between 4 to 5x, I'm happy with it. Oubre, I'm really not too impressed with, but I will have a little bit of exposure in GPPs just because of the high score, and I want some exposure to that game. I'm not going to necessarily stack it, but every so often I want a player or two that I think can take advantage of the score. Ingram, I don't hate here. I do think his ownership is going to still be low. It hasn't quite been high. I think the highest I've seen it so far this season was 17% in big GPPs. High-paced games, high pace, a lot of possessions are this guy's best way of scoring. He takes a lot of shots, even if they're not open, and he always has the possibility of heating up and putting up huge numbers. So he's always in play, but I don't think he's a must-play right now. And I do think that you can go down to like an Oubre and probably get a little bit of a higher floor, maybe not quite the ceiling, but a floor that's higher than his. And then probably a deep play if you're really looking to go down and really looking for some big upside. CJ Miles, he can shoot. I don't quite think that he's going to have the best game, but I think that he's going to pay off value. And if he heats up, he definitely has the ceiling that can put up a lot of points quick. So that's kind of the high to low. Probably a lot of Durant, a lot of Carroll, and then probably mix in some Ingram, Oubre, and Miles at the bottom.
Perfect. Now, you spoke about cash and GPPs. How do you divvy up on a nightly basis on your, are you 70% cash, 30% GPPs? Because you seem to me like if you took the nation, the staff here at the nation, you got me, I'm the cash guy, obviously. Believe it or not, I might have a lot of laughs and I might sound like I'm crazy, but I'm the cash guy. And then, we got Paulie D, who wakes up 30 seconds before the live stream. Hey, yo, play cargo, and then you got Josh, who is the same type of, he'll play anybody, he'll play the worst player on the road against the best team ever, just because he's the contrarian guy, basically is what I'm saying. So you seem to me like more of a regiment. You have a system, and you stick to it, and that's what you've worked. And that's what I'm getting at, and that's what's worked for you. So why don't you tell me more about like how, like at nightly, when you've made your lineups, how are you putting in your contest?
Yeah, so I do play. I mix it up pretty well with GPPs and cash. Usually I'll go about 15, maybe. I've been bumping it up a little bit recently and going 20% cash. I've primarily been a GPP player, but my lineups have always been a little bit in between a super contrarian GPP team and a high floor cash game. They've always been kind of in between because I played both. So I'm a mass enter kind of a guy. No matter if I'm going cash, no matter if it's going to be double ups, triple ups, anything like that. Like I do mass enter, but my lineups are usually kind of like we were talking earlier. I'll probably make 10 to 20 lineups on average. If I really like the slate, I'll bump that up a decent amount. If I don't like the slate, I'll usually stick to that. And anything in the middle, it's usually that. So I enter a lot of contests, but I don't necessarily make a lot of lineups. Like you said, I like to do my research. I like to know which guys I like in which spots. And I know what works for me, and I know what's worked for me in the past. So to like any other players out there, like that's the biggest thing. It's not like just throwing one lineup into like the Millie Maker on DK and hoping you hit every week. Like if you really want to sustain your bankroll and you really want to like be a player and keep playing, and even if you're not going to hit it rich, if you just enjoy doing it, find out what works for you. Are you somebody that likes to play it safe? If you like to play it safe with your players, then you're probably going to want to play cash games. If you're a guy that you really dive in and you really can pick out, like a receiver or a shooting guard, like that's coming off the bench that really is in a smash spot, like you're good at that, then yeah, play GPPs. But just find what you're good at and go with it. I know that like double ups, like $5 double ups, $10 double ups, like aren't quite as appealing as saying that, a guaranteed prize pool of $2 million. But at the same time, sustainability is big in this industry. And if you want to sustain your, I don't want to say career because it's not a career for most players, but if you want to be able to play this for a long time and not have to just invest a lot of money, then it's a lot about picking what suits you and what kind of a player and strategist you are.
There you got it. I mean, I found that in some ways, like, it's easier for me to be contrarian in baseball, but when in like football, it's harder for me to be contrarian because I feel like you see the plays and it's like in your face, like how does it not work? But then in baseball, it's like, I've played enough baseball, and of course Mike Trout can go 0 for 4 against Bartolo Colon in Coors with the wind blowing out. You know what I'm saying? In the humid day, you know what I mean? Of course it could happen. So it's like you could totally do it, but it's like this week in football, you're like, man, if Carson Wentz busts, you're like, I just can't see that. You know what I mean? Like if that happens, that like if there's certain things I can't see, and then sometimes they've happened this year, so it's kind of surprising. So, but that's guys, what he's saying here is exactly what I'm preaching, on some of my videos, a wise take. And, a wise take, we also teach, a lot of strategy. We just don't give out the picks. So, come in the chat rooms and we're not just giving plays, we're giving strategies, and we're having a lot of fun in the chat rooms and on the wise streams before lock. Obviously, it's at any time anywhere between an hour and a half to a half hour, depending on the slate. Go over the plays, position by position. That being said, let's move on to the power forward position for tomorrow night. We got it's basically 9,000 is the top guy. We got LaMarcus Aldridge, and then we got Porzingis, who if I followed it enough to know he was a big piling piece of crap the other night. So I know that Paulie D's like, here, check this lineup out, and I said it, and I know that it didn't do too well because he had Porzingis in it, and it was a night with the Anthony Davis tilt, and of course the Jimmy Butler again. It's like, why does it happen to him?
He's like, the guy.
It's seriously like, I played DFS last year a little bit, and the one day that I quit is, I always say it's the Jimmy Butler day, and everybody knows what day I'm talking about because everybody realized, and it was like, that was the day I was like, man, I'm not like investing as much in DFS basketball because like for that to happen, it's just the worst thing ever. And it still happened, and it happened again. And why does it happen to Jimmy Butler? It's like dude just doesn't like, it's crazy, But anyways, talk to me about power forward.
Yeah, so LaMarcus Aldridge, he's obviously priced pretty well, but I think I already saw that Kawhi was at least doubtful. I don't know if he's been ruled out yet. But with that being the case, like his usage and his points per minute ever since Kawhi's been out has just been through the roof. And I think cash game wise, it's going to be tough picking from these stars. But I think if you're going to kind of get away from Harden and Westbrook, that you almost have to have some Aldridge in there. I just think that the ceiling for him and the floor are both so high that you just can't get away from it. Porzingis, he burned me bad. Almost the entire nation, we were very high on him. And then when the news came out about Butler, we were like, all right, even better, because people are going to be all over Butler. Like, he was in a good spot. He was going to have decent ownership. And then when AD went down, we thought, oh, this is just going to be a
even
smash
better.
spot. Like, we're going to win all the money. And then on his birthday, he proceeded to just, take his middle finger and like put it up all of our rear ends. So that just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. So I think that ownership's going to be off of him. And in this game, as much as I dislike him right now, he's in play for me in GPPs. You can make a argument that he's cash game viable, just because one game doesn't define a career. It doesn't define a season. Kind of like baseball, an 0 for 4 on 2 nights doesn't quite mean that on the third night they're not going to have 2 bombs. Porzingis, he's still a player. It's still going to be a high-scoring game, or at least a decently high-scoring game. I do think that the total will come down, but I don't see anybody on Brooklyn really being able to slow him down, no matter if it's rebounding, no matter, he should get you a few blocks. I don't see how this is a bad spot for him. But I do think a lot of people who aren't going to dive too far into research are going to be off of him just because of the bad taste that he left in a lot of people's mouth. So I think GPP, this actually sets up really well for Porzingis. Aaron Gordon, he really came out and had a good game coming back into the lineup. I don't think I'm going to have much of him. It's not me saying that he's not necessarily a good play. It's just I think I can get better plays at other positions. Like Draymond right under him. Draymond, I think is in a smash spot. He's kind of with Durant. Like, I would have no problem stacking Durant and Draymond on the same team, especially in GPPs, and definitely on FanDuel. The points, the way that they did their point system, to where you're getting more points for blocks and steals, sets up great for Draymond. Like, he was almost tailor made for this system on FanDuel, and he's priced accurate, I think. But I just don't see myself getting off of him too much. And GPPs, like, he's going to be probably one of my heavier owned guys. Like, no matter what kind of studs I put in, no matter if I go even, no matter if I put a couple lineups in that are really contrarian, he's probably going to be in the majority of my lineups, especially on FanDuel. Carmelo, he kind of goes in with Paul George. I really just don't like taking a guess on where the usage is going to be at that price. Cheap players, I don't have an issue with kind of taking a shot in the dark on usage sometimes if I think it sets up nice for him, but I just don't think I'm going to go there without a good idea of how he's going to be used. Otto Porter, high scoring game. Otto Porter's always in play. He can play on both sides of the court. Just once again, I'll have some of them, but he's not going to be highly owned because a lot of my lineups are going to be consisting of Aldridge, Porzingis, and Draymond. So he'll be in a few lineups, but those 3 guys are going to kind of garner most of my ownership. I do think in GPPs, Frank, his price has been rising, but his ownership really has stayed the same. And a guy like Frank the Tank at Charlotte, a decently high-scoring game against Houston. Houston likes to shoot the 3. They should have a decent amount of possessions. And with his size and ability to go back behind the arc, I really like his spot there. And another flyer, a lot of my flyers are from this New York game. But Beasley, I think he burned a lot of people. I mean, it wasn't really his fault. He came down and twisted his ankle. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd game of the year. Had a decent amount of ownership, not a crazy amount, but I do think that the price range that he's in and with all the guys above him, he's going to go overlooked. And a guy that can score the kind of way that he can in a high-scoring game. And once again, I've kind of bagged on Brooklyn, but I haven't really narrowed down who I think is going to defend him. But at the same time, if you're not going to play Porzingis, I think that could be a decent pivot because they're going to need points to come from somewhere. So if you don't want to go with Porzingis, I really don't think it's a bad idea to go to Beasley if you're going to go down to this lower tier power forward. I don't think you need to go down lower to like Beasley, but if you're going to, he certainly makes a case for at least being a pivot off of Porzingis in that game.
Nice. So tell me a little bit more. How long have you been playing DFS?
I've been playing for right around 5 years now, kind of a lot. Always kind of tinkered with it. I've always played season-long leagues and kind of, went that route. But I didn't start playing really hard until about, 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly. But then I started putting a lot of lineups in, like I said, doing a lot of tournaments, a lot of contests. Started off in college sports. I'm a huge, anybody that listens to either the Wisecast or any of these YouTube videos, I'm sure you've heard me mention a lot of players, where they went through in college, how they played in college. College basketball, college football, they kind of set me up for this kind of a lifestyle of playing. And then when they got rid of that, I always kind of tinkered with NBA and NFL, but I never really got too heavily involved until they took away college basketball and college football. I did really well profit-wise off of college basketball, so that kind of got my bankroll up high enough to where I could kind of get my strategy laid out and how I wanted to play NFL, because it's such a difference from college football going into NFL. So that kind of allowed me to get how I wanted to play down better. But that's kind of, like I said, probably 5 years, roughly around there. But really hard for probably about the last 2 to 3 years.
That's good. What's your favorite sport to play?
My favorite sport to play, probably it's close, but I would probably say NFL. NBA would be second. I love MLB. Like, I'm a huge baseball fan, but it's just, I find it so hard. I find myself better at being able to pick out players in NFL and NBA that I think are going to be in great spots. And even though I'm a big fan of baseball, it's just harder for me to get away from those chalky plays that end up disappointing me. I won money doing it. It's just I'm probably a little bit less consistent with MLB than I am with like NBA and NFL, because like with those two sports, I can consistently at least be around the pay line unless something really bad happens. MLB, I'm either at the top or the bottom. Even if I think I just have a solid high floor lineup, I could still easily be at the very bottom of the list by the time the game's over. Like, that's just some reason why it goes. I dabble a little bit like into I dabble into everything. Like, if there's a sport on FanDuel, or I play a lot of different sites also, not just FanDuel and DraftKings. But I dabble into all of it, but golf is probably right below those three. I've just started getting into it heavier probably last year. But I've had some success. So when golf comes around, I'll probably up how many lineups I put in there also.
How do you allocate your bankroll from sport to sport? Because I think that that's another thing that people don't realize. They're like, okay, well, I want to play X amount of this and X amount of that. Wait a minute, now I have no money left. Like, you said you just played golf. Like, you want to play golf. Like, what is a dabble then? From your
a dabble for like a new sport. So let's say, it doesn't matter if you're going from golf or going to NBA, kind of like you said, just dabbling into it. Like, for me, with kind of how much time I put into my research, probably a good kind of line out how much you spend. Let's say you're good at NFL and you want to dabble into NBA this weekend. Whatever you average spending, let's say you spend 15% of your site bankroll, not your personal bankroll, but your site bankroll. Let's say 15%. Then I'll probably spend 5% on dabbling on something, maybe even less, but I probably wouldn't go above 5%. I like to stay around it, but if you really don't, you got to be honest with yourself. If you don't trust your process a whole lot, and you think that you're just going to throw in a few lineups and make it even, then make that even less than that. Then just enter it. My biggest thing when people ask me, like, when they first getting started, like friends of mine or people that just kind of know of me, or, even some people I've had recently get a hold of me like on Twitter, and things like that. And I'll tell them like, there's plenty of free contests, even if they don't pay out. Like if you're interested in playing more, a lot of sites have the free contests that do pay out, $1,000 guarantee prize pool, $10,000, whatnot. Or sometimes there's just like 10 people free contests that don't pay out any money. Like get into if you're not confident in yourself and you're not a huge fan and you don't think that your process is quite narrowed down right, then go with the free contest first. Don't necessarily take how you do, because usually the fields are so big on those that, if you don't hit the pay line, then don't be disappointed. But like, just do your research, find out where kind of an average score for somebody is, kind of look at some other contests maybe, and find out like, okay, are you ready to start? Or have your lineups been consistently, like NBA, have you been consistently like 275? Hopefully we all shoot for above 300, like well above usually. But if you're 275 to 285 consistently, then a lot of contests you're going to be at least competitive. So I do think that, you got to be honest with yourself. You don't want to invest too much. Try to hit up the free contests, and then kind of look at how you have kind of got to where you're at, where your lineups are scoring, and how comfortable you feel playing. It's all a comfort level thing with how much you're going to invest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's basically just understanding what type of player you are, if you want to play for fun or what you want to do. That being said, let's finish this up with the center position. Everybody's under 10K. You got the cat who, wow, I can't believe he's under 10,000. I mean, last year it seemed like he was always over 10K. And then you got Vucevic and then Jokic. So talk to me about the centers.
Okay, Cat, I'm interested in. I do think that in that game, if they are going to try to slow it down at all, and even, if it's going to be under a 205, I think he's going to be heavily involved. I don't think that that if it's higher than that, they necessarily have to take him off the court at all. I just worried that if it's get to that point, that they might try to start forcing up shots from outside. But he's definitely my favorite play at center, especially in the high tier. Jokic, he's disappointed everybody. I don't think this is necessarily the spot where I want to, take him on. He's definitely not a cash game play. Tournament, we've seen his upside last year. He's always has that upside. I just think against Howard, I don't think Howard's necessarily the best defender, but he takes away a lot of rebound potential. And Howard, I mean, me saying that he's not the best defender doesn't mean that he's washed up or anything. He can still defend, just not at an elite level. But taking a lot of rebounds away, I think, would kind of hurt his overall. Or wait, no, I had thought they were playing Charlotte. Never mind, they're playing Atlanta. Okay, that changes it a little bit. He's still definitely not cash game viable. I do think he does kind of deserve some ownership in GPPs. I just don't think it should be that high. I do think that I'm going to be, if anybody listens to this, and I know this is your first time with me, but I like to stay down low unless there's an obvious play at center, like tonight, Boogie. Unless there's an obvious play, I try to stay down. I'll have a lot of Cat, but I'll probably be around like Capella, and my ride or die. We've never done a show together, but my ride or die is Gortat. In the past, he's always won me money. Or not always, I don't want to guarantee that, but like he's always been consistent with me. And this year, he's consistently hit value. Definitely not a cash game play because at any point in time, he can score under value. But so far this year, he has showed me no reason to be scared of playing him in GPPs and expecting a floor of, especially on DK, he's been around 5.5. So for that, he would need like 26, 27 to hit value. At least for 5x for like a cash game or for a cheap player. GPPs, we try to get like 7 to 8, like hopefully out of a player. But I think at 5, I can live with that for that price and being able to fit in possibly a few more studs at other positions. Capella has upside. I do like his floor. They're playing against Charlotte, against Howard. Once again, I almost like Capella's rebounding ability. against Howard, a little bit more than Jokic. So that doesn't scare me quite as bad. So I think I'll probably stay more around Adams before I stop. Adams at OKC, definitely not a high floor player and not necessarily even a high ceiling player. But if you want, I don't think he's going to have a lot of ownership. I don't know if I'd recommend playing him, but if you want to go super contrarian at this position, I do think he'll have extremely low ownership, at least right now, without looking at other projections or even making my own. But I think I'll be around Cat, Gortat, and Capella on first look.
Nice. Yeah. So it looks like tomorrow's slate. It's you got the games where you know where you want to go. You know where it's the player pool is slimmed down. Any last remarks regarding this slate, and then we'll get on out of here.
Yeah, I'll make it pretty short, but just another tip to players out there on slates like tonight or tomorrow. Sorry, mix that up. But whenever you have this many studs, roster construction really comes into it. Like you have to, if you're going to play a lot of lineups, you can play a mixture of all of the studs if you want. But if you're a player like me that's only going to make maybe 20 lineups, because I do like tomorrow's slate, I might inch up around 30 lineups. But like me, like I'm going to have to pick out which studs probably tonight I want to do the most research on in the morning and which guys I want to target the most. And then you're going to have to construct your lineup in a wise way. Like don't try to fit in a Westbrook, a Durant, and a Aldridge, and then expect yourself to pay up to like 6,000 in other spots. Sometimes there's merit to not going with the number one player, even like a Westbrook. There's merit to not playing a Westbrook, not because you don't think he's going to go off, but because you think it sets your lineup better overall. So that's why like value, like new players, you'll hear us constantly preach. I'm big on value, but everybody here is. In any sport, value is huge because if you get a player that might have a floor of 7x, like a Westbrook, I don't know if his floor is that high, but let's say he does. But then you go down and you get a guy who is going to get you, like a return of 2 on it. Then you're really kind of setting yourself up to average out to where those two players only got you, between 4 to 5, X on value. So that really sets your lineup up bad where you can get a guy that's going to get 6 and a guy that's going to get 5. Then you're automatically, those two combined are going to get you more value for your money. So pick out the players the studs that you really want to pick from, and then do your research from there. And don't try to just jam everyone in and then go to, minimum price players from there, because that's going to hurt you.
Yeah, there you have it, guys. You got my man TC breaking it down for the NBA. Real quick, for the NFL slate, man, it's kind of weird this week. This is very weird options on wide receiver. I found there's not very many at all, and running backs kind of weird too. It's with the broken up slate. One last question: are you more of a FanDuel or a DraftKings player?
Recently, I've been pretty even. For the longest time, I started out on FanDuel. Played a lot on FanDuel. Then, before I became part of the Nation, I was heavy on DraftKings. And then recently, I've even a little bit prior, I guess, before coming to the Nation, I started splitting it up pretty evenly. And then recently, a lot of people hear me talk about FanDuel a lot. That doesn't necessarily mean that I play it more. It's just mainly because, like the first few shows I did, I realized a lot of people were talking about FanDuel pricing. So it's easier for me with these shows. If a lot of people have heard these guys talk about FanDuel in the past, then maybe that they themselves have kind of started playing on FanDuel. So I kind of wanted to, edge that way, at least when I'm talking to these guys. But I'm pretty even 50-50 on both sides. I play a lot of like fantasy draft. I play a lot of play draft. I do Playline, which has been really great for me. If anybody wants to like work on your projecting skills, Playline's a great way to work on your projecting skills. Free contests, and like you can, and this isn't me like repping the company at all. Like this is just like my own person. Like it's really helped me work on, kind of setting where I think a player is going to end, because that's all that is. You're just guessing, like NFL, how many catches a guy is going to get, how many yards he's going to get, touchdowns. NBA, it's points, rebounds, assists, whatnot. So like, that's just a good tool to kind of help yourself get to that point. Now, if you have no experience in that, then it's going to take you longer than guys like us that, play this a lot and we have a good understanding of matchups and where we think they're going to be. But I play all sites that I can get on. But my main two are split pretty evenly between DraftKings and FanDuel.
Yeah, I'm primarily FanDuel, and like DraftKings is kind of like fun, just playing the fun, like that's a fun site. But I still sometimes, I'll move some money and be more serious. So anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for today. I had a good time. What'd you think, TC? Good?
Yeah. I liked. Yeah, it was a good time. It was pretty upbeat, and it seemed like we got through the players pretty quick. And hopefully, everyone enjoyed that we didn't just have fun and then go straight to the players. I like how you kind of broke it up a little bit. Like it was a very enjoyable show
and very informative. You got some strategy, you got some picks. That's what you get with the nation. You definitely get some laughs at the beginning and send it in there. And on more night, I'm definitely going to get you with top 5 questions that we ask everybody from the Wise Take Nation. I didn't get you this time, but I will be getting you. And trust me, those questions can be quite risque at times. So, anyways, I just want to say, everybody, thank you out there. Make sure you join Wise Take. Hit us up, wisetake.com. Follow us on Twitter. Terry_Collins12. Myself at Patio Joe Ref. And make sure to catch us for the Nation members. Be sure to catch TC hopefully tomorrow on the Wise Stream. Are you on tomorrow?
I don't think I am. I think it's just Cash and Pauly.
Okay,
I don't think I'm on until Saturday.
Okay, yeah. Well, that'll be good. Then Saturday, don't forget the Wise Stream at 2 p.m. Eastern time, going over the Week 8 slate. We're already halfway through the NFL season, which is crazy how it just flies by. And we have, Halloween on Tuesday, and then Thanksgiving in a couple weeks, and then it's Christmas, and then before you know it, it'll be playoffs in the Super Bowl. So anyway, this was a lot of fun. I like the back and forth. We're going to have a lot of fun on Saturday. I'm pretty sure I'm hosting. So when I'm hosting, we go through things. We get going. So anyways, everybody on YouTube, hit the like button on iTunes, Podbean, move us up those charts. We really appreciate it. We know CK in the back from the Crossroads appreciates it with his hair down and looking all pretty right now. Just combing his hair while he's listening to it right now. That's what he's doing. So
Rapunzel,
yes. He's like, it's like he's like, what's that one Bible character that gets all of his power from his hair? So, anyways, for TC, I'm Patio Joe, and we are out.
Yeah.